So I think we're live. Good afternoon. This has been a great weekend. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got a bit of an echo now. Oh, so this is going to be our last session of the day, unfortunately. Can you hear the echo?
Yeah.
Let me try it without the microphone. Let me see if that works better.
Can't hear you at all now. Now you're silent. Now you're muted, Tara. Please bear with us. Whoops.
Hello, I've come back in just in case there's technical issues.
Tara has inadvertently muted.
We can't hear you, Tiara. Hang on, let me see. No, you're. Refresh your page might help. In the meantime, I will start by introducing our fabulous picture book team here. So we have Tessa Strickland, if you'd like to give a wave. There we go. And Jo Collins. And Marisa. Yeah, who's our special guest star. Hang on, speak to us now, Tiara. See if you're.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. So
Perfect.
I'm going to go away again and leave you in the tender care of.
Bye. Okay, so again, welcome to our session. I think Jane started to give the introduction. This is our long-awaited picture book session, and I'm happy to introduce Tessa Strickland and Jo Collins. Tessa is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Barefoot Books that was established in 1993. She has written over 30 picture books as herself and also as Stella Blackstone and Oscar Seaworthy. Jo began her career as an editor at Barefoot Books under Tessa, and she is currently a freelance editor, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Great. And she was also formerly senior editor at Little Tiger Press and is also a published writer in her own right. And our special guest today is Marisa Dulac. The Golden Egg Academy has several programs. Hi, Marisa. And we seldomly get to hear from people who've actually gone through the program. Marisa is a 2020 graduate? 2019 graduate of the Golden Egg Academy Picture Book program. So we're hoping this session is going to be very interactive. I see we already have 22 questions. I will hand over to Tessa and Jo to tell you a little bit about writing picture books and also about the Golden Egg Academy program. And then Marisa can tell you about her experience, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome, everybody, and thank you all very much to listen to us. So Jo and I have been running the Golden Egg Picture Book program for 4 years now. And so far, 60 students have graduated. I should say it differs from the fiction program in that it's a curated program. So if you're interested in learning how to write picture books, you submit 3 manuscripts and they are assessed by Jo, and you get a manuscript review and you're told whether or not you've made the cut. And if you haven't, you can have another go. And so we keep the classes quite small. There are usually no more than 16. And so far we've had 60 graduates through the program, and 30 picture book deals have been signed with publishers, and quite a few of additional graduates have agents and are eagerly awaiting their first deal. And you can find out more about the program on the website. And we also run one-off open nest workshops. Jo runs a couple of introductory ones every year, and I do more specialist ones as the year turns. And we try and tailor everything so that we can help you. So this hour is a Q&A because we thought it would be best if you asked questions you most needed answers for, rather than listening to us pontificating. And we also invited Marisa as a special guest because if I were in your shoes, I'd be very interested to know what it was like to be a student rather than what it's like to deliver the program. So we're very grateful to Marisa for sacrificing her Sunday afternoon for this. And I will now hand over to my lovely and super talented colleague, Jo.
Right. Oh, I've got a really bad echo. Sorry. Is there anything I can do about that? Technical team. Oh.
Try again.
Probably not.
No.
Right. Everything is echoing. I don't like it at all. I'm sorry.
Can you unplug your headphones? Okay. Try speaking again now, Jo.
Yep. Oh, it's really echoing.
Jo, you might just have to put your comments in the chat and leave it to Tessa and Marisa, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Should we try to have Marisa talk to see if that's going to work? I'm going to go back to mute so that I'm muted before you talk. So go ahead, Marisa.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, great. All right. Hi, my name is Marisa Dulac. And I was a graduate on the PitchBook course back in 2019. I then, in 2020, with Tessa's help, I was able to secure a deal with an agent. I was taken on by Jill McClay from the Bath Literary Agency. And then I won an award. And then I managed to secure a 3-book deal with Faber. That all sounds like basically nothing happened for ages, and then it all happened quite quickly. So there was a lot of work behind the scenes to make all that happen. Yeah, so, and I have my first book publishing hopefully in autumn 2022, which is called There's a Tiger on the Train. And so, yeah, so that's where I am. Do you want me to talk a little bit about the Golden Egg course?
Please
Shall I do that?
Yes,
now?
please do.
Okay, so, well, the first thing I'd say is, as I've just said, so much has happened in the last 12 months, and there's no way that I feel any of that would have happened without the support of the Golden Egg team. I really feel that it was instrumental in making a difference to my writing, and I've got a big thanks to Golden Egg for that. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the Golden Egg course is, how it's structured, and the benefits that it what I got out of the course, really, because I think that, as Tessa said, because I'm a graduate, I suppose I'm able to talk from that perspective. What I would say is I've heard other graduates from the course talk about the toolbox, and I think that's a really good description of what you can get out of the Golden Egg Academy, because you get the tools to help you be a really good writer, and then how you use those tools and what you do with them after you finish Golden Egg is up to you, but they give you the bag of tools so that you can go and create the best writing that you can. And generous with time and their encouragement, and they're able to really help guide you through the process and help pull out of you the writer that you want to be. So that's a really important part of the course. The other thing I'd say is the guest speakers that come along. Tessa and Jo are really great at bringing people in from lots of different, you have experienced writers, experienced illustrators, people from the publishing world. So we had some brilliant art directors that came to talk to us. And all these people, they're really generous about sharing their process, how they work, how they've got to where they are, and also the other things about being a writer. So, how that sometimes it's difficult in the beginning to actually make a living. So many writers write and then they have other jobs as well. And I think those are all important things which are good to learn when you're starting out. And also the other thing that's great about Golden Eggs is all the other participants. So the other eggs that are part of your intake. And it's a really supportive group. Everybody's in the same position. People are from lots of different backgrounds. So you have people who are working in the city and are doing this sort of in their spare time, and they've also got families. You have people who've perhaps retired and they've always wanted to write, and this is something which has been burning inside of them, and this is the course that's going to sort of help them do it. You have other people who are students, lots of different age groups. But everybody has the same goal. They all want to write picture books, and it's such a supportive environment. And I've made some really good friends, and I've got some fantastic critique groups from the course that, we all share each other's work, and that's been brilliant. That's a really important part of the Golden Egg thing. Oh, and also I should just say as well that also not just your little group of eggs, but you feel you're part of something a lot bigger. So when I won the FAB award, which is an award for underrepresented authors in the industry, underrepresented writers who are trying to get into the industry, more to the point, I tweeted about it, and so many eggs, so many people who had been Golden Eggs, they all supported me. Actually get different things out of the course. And for me, I don't know if I've got time to say this, but there's a couple of things which I had a few light bulb moments when I was at Golden Egg. Have I got time quickly to talk about that? Or have I talked too much already? I don't know.
Go ahead.
So I had a couple of real light bulb moments when I was at Golden Egg. The first one is when I was I had a one-to-one tutorial with Jo, and I went into the tutorial with my picture book, and I don't mind saying that when I went into the tutorial, I thought, oh, this is, I think I've got something here. I felt in my heart, I thought this is the best picture book that I've written so far. And I thought it was something, I was really looking forward to Jo's feedback. Anyway, Jo, in her typical lovely way, said, I think this is really great, but I think you need to put the middle at the end, the end at the beginning. And I think this bit here, which was my favorite bit, I think you might need to ditch that. But she didn't say it like that. And anyway, I came out of this one-to-one thinking the book that I thought might have been the kind of, the one I'd written that was the best, maybe needed to go in the bin. But then afterwards, I got my manuscript and I restructured it the way that Jo had suggested. And I realized I had just this moment, and I was just like, how important is structure? Jo has just taken what is essentially, it was an okay text, but it wasn't amazing. And she basically raised the bar, and it taught me two things. One, how important structure is. And two, how important an experienced eye looking at your work can see something that you just can't see because you're so close to it and you don't see it. And the other thing it taught me was aim for great. You aim for amazing. It's just raise the bar all the time. And so that was one thing. The second light bulb moment I had was with a workshop with Tessa, which was about meter and rhyme. And basically, I realised after what Tessa taught me, and I knew about meter already, but what Tessa basically taught me was how to use that tool to make my work better. That's what she taught me. And I think that when you're on the Golden Egg course, you'll get different things from it, depending on where you're coming from, the experiences that you've had. And so some people will get things about structure, some people will get things about rhythm, some people will get things about lots of different things. But for me in particular, they realized, they helped teach me the things to make my writing better. And I think that Golden Eggs is so skilled at that, getting that toolbox into your hands and helping you know how to use those tools. So that's what I would say about Golden Eggs. I'll stop talking now.
No worries, that was perfect. And Golden Egg have some of the best editors in the industry, let's face it. The editors are wonderful, they know what they're doing, and you can rest assured that when you're in the hands of someone at Golden Egg, they really have your best interests at heart. They want to see you create the best story that you can create. Joe, should we try it again?
Right, I'm going to say, oh, it's still echoing. Oh no.
It's not so bad though.
It's not too bad for you.
Nope, just go for it. I'm going to mute myself.
Right, well, what would you like me to comment on? Because I think obviously Mariessa gave such a fantastic review of the actual course that we do and what we hope writers get out of the course. Would you like to know, do you think I should talk a bit more about the course content or
I'm not sure.
process?
I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with the picture book program. Is it selective?
It is, yeah. So it's a curated course. As Tessa mentioned at the beginning, you apply by sending up to three manuscripts, 3 picture book manuscripts, and we will review those, and you'll get a short editorial report with feedback. Sorry, it's quite difficult because I'm getting such a bad echo. We will let you know if you are at the right stage on your writing journey to join us on the course, and we'll offer you a place, or we'll give you feedback on how you could improve your writing to perhaps reapply. So yeah, that's the application process. We are currently looking at applicants for our 6th cohort of students. So we're working at the moment with our 5th cohort of students. And I'm now looking at applicants for our 6th course, which will start in September 2022. And just briefly, the course includes 3 carefully structured workshops, one in the September, then one at the start of the 2nd term in January, and one towards the end of the course at the start of the 3rd term in May time. It also includes really regular webinars, which we do every other week. And then it includes your one-to-one sessions with your editor. And everyone on the course gets a chance to have at least one-to-one with both Tessa and myself. Yeah, I think that's probably it on the course for now. Do you think we might want to take some questions?
Yes, and I it's 2021, not 2022, as I wrote. Tessa has already corrected that. So yes, let's take some questions because we have 41 questions.
Wow.
A link to see the course. Yes, we can post that in a second. It's the Golden Egg Academy website. I'll post that in just a moment. Let's get a question going here. So far, the top question is, are there any trends emerging in picture books you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would sort of suggest a couple. I think we're seeing a lot of picture books at the moment, and we have for a while, but it continues to be a strong trend in sort of mental health. I think we were talking about this in our workshop yesterday, actually, Tessa, weren't we? Would you like to add anything to that, Tessa? I think you were talking about it yesterday. You're muted.
There, I think you're...
Okay, now I'm unmuted. So yeah, it's an excellent question, and I think I would say that the most important thing if you are writing picture books is to find your voice and to write about what motivates and interests you. So on the one hand, if you're trying to be a professional writer, you're aware of how the market is behaving and use your antennae to sense what's in the air and read a lot of what's contemporary in the market, the best of the contemporary picture books. But you don't want to turn into a hack and just write because you think a theme is popular. So, for example, there has been a wave of interest in environmental topics, and with climate crisis, that's not going to go away. But publishers are saying that they are completely they have overdosed really on plastic in the ocean. So that's a thread that has come and gone. the intimate family life themes are always relevant. So what it's like getting a small child to go to sleep, what bath time is like, what getting up and down stairs is like, what going to school is like, what getting a new sibling is like, what it feels like to make and lose a best friend. So I really recommend tapping into your inner 3 and 4 year old when you're writing for children. And if you have children yourself, really noticing what their preoccupations are, because you're writing for children. So, yeah. Tiara, I can't hear you now.
Sorry. I keep putting myself on mute so that we don't have the echo. Carly has asked, what should be included in a picture book query?
I don't think I understand that question.
When you're querying to an agent, what should be included in the letter?
Oh, I see. I would suggest not submitting more than 3 or 4 manuscripts. I can say what not to say more easily than I can say what to say. So I've had, as an editor, I've had a lot of submissions from people who say that they've written these manuscripts and their friends and family love them. But your friends and family will love your manuscripts because they love you. So that's kind of doesn't really cut the mustard. It helps when you're submitting to a publisher to know your way around their list and make a couple of tactful remarks about what you admire about their list. And it helps, again, when you're submitting to an agent to look at the other authors that agent represents, so that you know that you're submitting to someone who is active in the picture book field. But really, your manuscripts are what is going to be of interest. So write a fairly short, professional-sounding letter, and expect quite a long wait, actually, before you hear back.
I think it's also quite... Sorry. Got really bad echo.
How long of a wait when you say a long wait?
It can take 6 months. So one of our eggs from the course before Marisa submitted to an agent in January last year and heard back in August. I mean, partly COVID obviously threw a lot of people for a loop, and I would say the industry is still playing catch up as a consequence.
And is it worth it for the author to follow up, or should they, if they don't hear from someone, just accept that? Or at what point in time do you say, okay, if you haven't heard by 6 months, 9 months, yes, you should follow up?
Well, I would follow up earlier than 6 months, but people, you have to get used to a lot of unanswered phone calls and emails. I mean, pushing helps, but it can also irritate people. So I think there's no right or wrong. You kind of have to use your sense of diplomacy and tact, and actually, insofar as you can, get to industry events, because you never know who you might meet, and that might lead to an introduction to someone who might say, oh yeah, I'll be happy to look at your work, and so it goes like that.
Okay, excellent. The next question is, how many picture books should you have in your portfolio, if I read it correctly? How many picture books, yes, should you have in your back pocket or your portfolio before you start querying them to agents? And also, should you stick to one genre, such as funny and silly versus calm and thoughtful?
Well, that's about getting to find your voice as a writer. I'm answering the last question first. If you're most comfortable doing fun and silly, then do fun and silly. If you're more comfortable doing reflective and thoughtful, and you feel you fall flat on your face when you do fun and silly, then do reflective and thoughtful. Some people are very good at doing both. Some people are able to do a mixture of fiction and non-fiction. Some people are as comfortable writing in verse as they are in prose. But part of the purpose of the program is to help you discover what your strengths are and help you play to them. And I would say, don't send just one manuscript, because then you look a bit like a one-trick pony. Send 3 or 4.
Okay. Joe, maybe you can answer this in the forum. Someone has asked, should or can you send picture books with illustrations? Joe?
I think Joe might have frozen.
I have her frozen.
Okay, shall I answer that?
Yes, go ahead and answer that, please.
Okay, so you do not need, there's been quite a lot of questions about illustrations. You do not need to send illustrations with your manuscript. So there is a misconception among some aspiring picture book writers that they need to hook up with an illustrator before they can submit. Actually, publishers much prefer reviewing manuscripts and deciding who will illustrate them. So unless you're, you really see yourself as an author illustrator and you're doing both, don't feel you have to cast around for an illustrator. In fact, it can be disastrous. I mean, I spent a very difficult year early in my career having to unhook an author from an illustrator because I liked the manuscript, but I didn't like the illustrator, nor did my sales director. And the illustrator sued the author for breach of contract because they'd signed a contract between them before finding a publisher. So don't do that.
Okay. Okay, we have some discussion. I'll get right back to the questions. We have some discussion in the forum about the statement to submit 3 or 4 manuscripts to an agent at once.
And to a publisher, same amount.
Same amount to a publisher, because someone has written 1 for publisher, so it's the same amount, 3 for agent or publisher. Yes. Okay. So let me get to another question. That we had that. Rhyming picture books. I've heard that rhyming picture book texts are not looked at as much by publishers because they can't sell as well internationally. Do you think that would put agents off from representing authors with rhyming texts?
I wish I was given a £1 coin for every time I have to explode this myth. You have only to look at the best-selling picture books in the market and an author whose initials are JD to realize that rhyming picture books are hugely popular. And in my experience, both as an editor and as a writer, it is no obstacle to international book sales. What happens, which I think is what has given rise to this irritating myth, is that some publishers, some editors get rid of unsubmitted manuscripts by saying, oh, it rhymes, it'll be difficult to sell internationally. And it's a lazy way of responding to manuscript submission. But I think that's why this myth is abroad, and Joe is right. They do sell and they are very popular. And if you write well in verse, go for it.
Okay, that's excellent. Because I had heard that once too, especially when selling to the German market. And I am in Germany, and the JD books, when I compare the English version to the German version, it's like the book gets this much thicker because, by the sheer nature of the German language, but it works.
Yeah.
It works. Okay. I'm an author illustrator looking to pitch to agents. Is it better to show a range of genres in my initial few book dummies, or is it better to show a few that speak strongly to a certain space in the picture book market so they know what to do with me? Jillian asked this question.
Yeah, if you're versatile, show off that you're versatile. You're only going to have one chance, so show your best range.
And then a question from Jeanette Marsh. If you have a picture book written, where do you go next?
You go to the Writers and Artists, the Children's Writers and Artists Yearbook, which has all of the publishers, all of the children's agents, specifies which ones take picture books, includes lots of very helpful articles about how the industry works. It's also a very good idea when the libraries reopen to chat to your local children's librarian. It's also a good idea to make friends with any local children's booksellers and network like that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, one of my fellow Scoobies from Germany is on here. Hi, Linda. Where are we now? Let's see. Would you say there are genres of picture book? And if so, what are they? If not, how would you classify them? Ruth asked this question.
Well, it sort of depends what you mean by genre. I mean, picture books are sort of a genre in their own right. And within that, I would say if you go to Amazon and see what the most popular searches are under picture books, you kind of get an idea. But for example, picture books for bedtime is probably a genre. Picture books for, there are themes, I would say, rather than genres. So, emotional well-being is a theme stroke trend.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of family relationships is a theme stroke trend. Journeys is a very strong theme. The primary school curriculum is an extremely helpful reference point for picture book writers, because picture books are often used by teachers at infant level to support the curriculum. So and journeys and actually local geography are very popular in that area. An interesting trend and a rising trend at the moment is actually what I would call narrative non-fiction picture books, which are for slightly older children and lavishly illustrated and kind of almost blend storytelling and fact. So if you look at a publisher like Wren and Rook, which is part of the Hachette Group, and their series of mini biographies, those are a very good example of that trend.
Okay, great. And should the manuscript be polished, or is there room to submit a really good idea and then work together with an editor once you've been selected?
You need to get your manuscript in the best shape you possibly can, and you need to be prepared for your editor to put you through a lot of rewrites.
Okay, Marisa, would you like to add anything to that? How was it for you when you were submitting? Can't hear you.
She's on mute.
There you are. Okay.
Hang on.
You're back.
Sorry about that. When I was submitting to agents, how was it when I was submitting to agents? Sorry. Well, I think you get used to rejection quite quickly when you're submitting. But I would say that having now secured an agent, one of the key things I think is a lot of it is about once you've polished your text just as much as you can, a lot of it is actually about chance and timing. It's getting the right version of the right text to the right agent at the right time, and keep plugging away, really. Because, for example, with my agent Jill, one of the texts that she took on, she said that's the reason that she took me on, but that text had been seen by other agents, but in slightly different versions, or and so it's just getting the right text to the right person and just keep going and not take the rejections personally, because it's very easy to take them personally, but it's really isn't. It's just, you just got to keep going.
And then just have it polished and in the best state that it can be in before you send it out.
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I have to scroll here a little bit. Sorry, we've talked about the rhyming picture books. Could you talk about the collaborative nature of picture book creation, the author, illustrator, editor, designer, anyone else?
Sure.
Maureen Linus asks this. Hi, Maureen.
It's a very good question. Thank you. The process differs from publisher to publisher. So I'll describe how I worked at Barefoot, which is quite similar to the way the picture book editors work at Anderson Press. I should say that graduates from the picture book program who make the cut have an exclusive first look. We have a first look deal with Anderson Press, and we also have a first look deal with Peters, Fraser and Dunlop, which is a London-based literary agent. So at Barefoot, so all of the manuscripts came in were assessed first by editors, and if they landed on my desk and I liked them, the manuscript, before it's acquired even, will go to a meeting with the sales team, and the editor will be the person in the company who loves the manuscript more than anyone else, and his or her job is to persuade the sales and marketing teams that it's going to sell. So that means that the editor needs to be aware of the competition, be aware of the author's potential in terms of running events, in terms of their social media presence, in terms of their general loveliness as a human being, and actually in terms of their long-term potential, because it's very helpful to a publisher if they sign an author and think, actually, we want to work with this person long term, we want to invest in them and keep on investing them and build a backlist with them. So you go to this meeting with the sales and marketing directors, and also, of course, I mean, one of the most important sales directors in the room is the person who sells the international rights to publishers overseas, because picture books, being in full colour, are very expensive to print. So all British publishers depend on orders from outside the UK to make their prices work. So in Barefoot, we actually dealt with that after 5 years by setting up our own US business. So we published worldwide in the English language, but it's very important that the foreign rights sales director thinks that she can sell the book, which means you want to kind of avoid very, very English themed settings, because they won't translate into the market in Brazil, for example, or China, which has become a very big market, in terms of English books being exported into China, but also in terms of Chinese publishers buying them for translation into various Chinese languages. So anyway, so you go through this grueling meeting as an editor while the author is backstage at home wondering whether they're really going to get an offer. At that meeting, the different sales directors say how many they think they can sell in their countries. Then the production director runs costings, and then we calculate, based on that first print run, how big of an advance to offer. And if the author accepts the offer, then it's time to find an illustrator. So sometimes so at any one time when I was at Barefoot, I would have my pile of manuscripts to the right, my pile of illustrators I wanted to work with to the left. And in a way, one of the most fun parts of the job is marrying the illustrator to the author. Mm-hmm. And it's quite typical for the editor and the art director between them to choose a couple of potential illustrators, give both illustrators a brief to have a go at doing the main characters and a couple of consecutive scenes. And then those illustrations come back to the big sales team. Everyone looks at them. In a worst case scenario, the sales directors say, no, neither of them are any good. We'll never be able to sell that. Mm-hmm. In the best case scenario, everyone likes both of them a lot, and you have to choose between the two. But it can be very quick between the signing of the manuscript and the signing of the illustrator, or it can take for ages. So, for example, yesterday, our guest author on the current picture book program was a very established picture book writer called Tim Knapman. And he was describing how years ago his agent sold a manuscript called Sometimes I Am Furious to a publisher. Mm-hmm. 6 months later, the publisher cancelled it because the editor who had acquired it left, and the rest of them decided they didn't like it. His agent resold it to another publisher. The manuscript came back again. And now, finally, it's been acquired by Macmillan, and they're publishing it next year.
Brilliant.
So, it's rarely a straightforward process. Don't give up your day job, because it can take between 2 and 4 years for your picture book to come out.
But don't give up. Keep going for it. You have to keep going. The next question is from Nadine Holland. Are there any no topics when it comes to writing picture books?
Well, I would say cultural appropriation is a big issue in picture books, just as it is elsewhere in the industry. So don't write from what you don't know about. But apart from that, one of the great things about writing picture books is you can actually be outrageous imaginatively, and small children really love it when taboos are broken in picture books, and those often become the bestsellers. So you've got quite a wide territory to go at.
Okay. Are there any themes in picture books that publishers are looking for to fill gaps, or are there trends that you think might stick around for a while?
Well, I think you have to look at the classic picture books, and one of the one of the interests, so this is quite a commercial question in a way, because one of the things that makes a picture book successful is the way the publisher continues to market it or not. So it's if a publisher lets a book go out of print because they've miscalculated the way the sales cycles are going to work, it can be extraordinarily difficult to get it back into the market.
Mm-hmm.
It's like waves breaking, you know. So when a book is available and running and booksellers can go on ordering it, they'll go on selling it as, you know, as fast as they can, because it's in their interests to. But if it's suddenly not available, and then it's not available for 1 month, and then it's not available for 2 months, and then it's not available for 4 months, people just forget about it. So you're very dependent on your publisher keeping your book alive. But what tends to happen is if they do keep it alive, then once the children who watched that picture book when they were little become parents, they want the books they loved when they were little.
Right.
So I'm slightly embarrassed to say that I'm now at the stage of life where books that I wrote for Barefoot 25 years ago are now being bought by parents of small children because they remember them from their own childhoods. So that makes the market quite conservative in a way. And it's why, for example, Winnie the Pooh and Beatrix Potter and Dr. Seuss continue, and Madeline, they continue to sell in shed loads because parents and grandparents remember them. So there's this very strong nostalgic thread in picture books.
Exactly. It's what makes you feel good. It reminds you of your childhood, and you want to share that with your child as well, or with your grandchildren, whatever. Okay, Nessa Kessinger has asked, she is an illustrator, and a similar question to writing picture books. She's mostly a children's book illustrator. How finished should a book be, the illustrations be, before she approaches an agent or publisher?
I would recommend having a thumbnail size, that is a miniature book illustrated throughout in black and white. You need to be able to show the publisher that you can tell a story through visual narrative. And then you need, I would say, no more than 3 beautifully worked up double page spreads, preferably sequential ones, again, to show that you're a storytelling illustrator, but that no more than that, because the art director may well have very strong views about layout, which affects illustration. And so you don't do the whole book.
Okay, Nessa, I hope that was a bit of an answer to your question. The next question is from, excuse me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, UK. When a writer works with an illustrator to write a picture book, how do you deal with the relationship between text and image?
Well, it's handled by the art director and the illustrator. So and the graphic. Sometimes the art director and the designer are one and the same person. Sometimes the art director is overseeing design, which is handled by a number of graphic designers. But the layout and the relationship of text to image, and usually the author gets to see roughs to comment on, not to veto. So if you're an author, you're never given the right to say this book cannot be published by that, illustrated by that person. Because you're not the party taking the commercial risk. The publisher is the party taking the commercial risk. And so the publisher has the right to choose who illustrates your book, whether you like it or not. I mean, usually authors are very happy with their illustrators. Sometimes you can be quite surprised if you're the author, because you always have a kind of image in your head of what your characters are like. And then the publisher comes back to you and says, that was a really lovely story you submitted about a hippo. We've actually decided it's going to be a dog, not a hippo,
Okay.
So be flexible. You may rage inwardly, but to your publisher, you smile and you say, yeah, great, what a fantastic idea.
Okay. Heather has asked a question, are cuddly grandma stories still wanted? Those soft, gentle stories where you cuddle up on grandma's lap and you're eating cookies and drinking milk, and feel good stories.
Feel good stories are very much wanted. And actually, one of the editors at Anderson said to me recently, you know what, after this pandemic and the awfulness of it, there will be a real move towards feel good stories. Everyone wants to feel better. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Carly asked the question that she would love advice on self-publishing picture books. What is the market like for self-publishing, and what is the process like, and is it worthwhile?
I would say proceed with caution. Do not go to people advertising on the internet who say they will publish your book and then ask for lots of money in order to do so, and then do nothing to help you with sales and distribution. So one of the most challenging aspects of publishing is how you sell and distribute your books. If you are someone who has the energy to do your own marketing and sales on social media and to do your own fulfillment out of your garden shed or wherever, then why not, you know? But I know an awful lot of people who have rather a lot of boxes of all kinds of books, actually, picture books, novels, etc., under their beds because they didn't realize quite how difficult it would be to sell them. I mean, it's typically fairly easy to shift 100 copies of a picture book, but to make your costs work, you're going to have to print around 5,000, and that's a lot of picture books to sell. So I think if you want to self-publish, you're better off not doing it with picture books unless you know you've got a big online following or can build a big online following. Yeah, be careful.
So if someone has already established that online, because I know some authors who've done that, they've established their online following before they've published novels as well, then would you say take the chance?
Well, one of the differences between picture book publishing and, for example, fiction is you can do it with fiction quite easily because you can print fiction on demand. So you're not investing in stock. But because picture books print to a very high standard with the specialist picture book presses, which are largely in Eastern and Southern Europe and in Mexico and Asia, you can't print those on demand. You have to jump off a cliff and commit to quite a high print quantity. I mean, I've seen some picture books printed on demand in the UK, and they've usually been on rather horrid paper, and they kind of look like poor relations of the best ones. Okay.
Again, I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Yukio or Yukao. Is it a good idea, possibility to set up a WhatsApp group for us to connect and share information and insights after the conference? Publishers, writers, illustrators, agents. Does something like that already exist?
There isn't a Golden Egg Picture Book WhatsApp group. I think if you're interested in finding out more, your best bet is to join the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. That's sort of the biggest UK-based, well, it's US-based as well, actually. So it's the biggest international forum for people who are, active in this genre.
That's what I would have recommended as well. SCBWI, British Isles, or wherever you are, if you're not in the UK, if you're in the US or here in Germany or other locations, find what's close to you. There's so many locations in different countries, and join them. And then that's a really good place to start. Marisa, do you have any recommendations for how people can really join a community so that they get that support?
I was just going to say something quickly about Twitter, which was just to say that there is a really active, there's lots of active writers on Twitter, and they are incredibly supportive. And so it certainly is worth, if you're not on Twitter, it's worth joining Twitter and just sending some feelers out and just connecting with people, because that's a really great way to get support. And the other thing that I would say, obviously, this is for Golden Eggs. But once you're a member of Golden Eggs, afterwards, lots of people go off and form their own groups. So you have I'm a member of lots of different groups, which are all people that have been member of Golden Egg. So that's obviously something that if you're a Golden Egg, you can do. And I also think Scooby is amazing. I'm also a member of Scooby. That's also a great way locally to be
Absolutely.
able to link
Scooby is a godsend, definitely. Thank you, Marisa. Katie Thomas asked the question, is it best to go to an agent or can you go directly to a publisher?
You can go directly. You can go directly.
Are there any benefits to going to one or the other?
Well, if you go to an agent, it's very beneficial to have an agent if the agent is really prepared to champion you and work hard on your behalf, and if you click. But it can become complicated, and some of our eggs have had this experience. If you sign with an agent who gets lukewarm about your work but keeps you on their books, but you feel is not really putting you in front of the people you want to be put in front of. So if you're quite proactive and brave, I think it's worth submitting. I would do both, to be honest, because it can be as hard to find an agent as it is to find a publisher. So
okay, good point.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe is asking a question. Have you had any experiences with Joe, please forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, polarization in picture books due to concerns over international rights or sales being impacted by bigotry or cultural taboos? Are you familiar with the term polarization?
Yes, I would say not so much cultural issues, but for example, in the US, I'm very interested, actually. I thought of this the other day. I'm a great admirer of Chris Horton, especially his book, Shh, We Have a Plan. But it involves shooting birds. And certainly for me in the US, you cannot publish a book that has a gun in it for children. And so I'd be very interested to know if that book, which is a brilliant children's picture book, is even on sale in North America. I will check, but I would say that's kind of the biggest issue.
Okay. Joe, did that answer your question? If not, then pop something into the chat and we'll try and get clarification. Haley Lloyd Overton asks, I also have a picture book written in a nonsense rhyme adventure style, but now need an illustration agent, etc. Can you advise?
It doesn't need an illustration. It doesn't need an illustrator. Do not worry about the illustrator. Sell the manuscript.
Let the publisher worry about the illustrator.
Yeah.
Okay. Warren Manger says, I am writing a series of rhyming picture book stories and would love your thoughts on whether there is an upper limit on how long they should be.
Yes, there is. No more than 1,000 words. A lot of publishers want around 500 words these days, but I think you can go up to 1,000 personally. If a publisher likes the manuscript, they will work with you to cut it if they think it's too long. But if you go over 1,000 words, all picture books are with a few pages. So if you've got more than 1,000 words, it ceases to become a picture book because there's too many words to get in.
Okay. Claire Wallace has a question about the Golden Egg Academy picture book program. Can you apply for the course if one of your manuscripts have been self-published? She has 3, including the one that she's just published herself.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And Anne Jones asks, does word count include the title?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And Liz Dale asks, are publishers or agents looking to publish new manuscripts at this time? Which agents are actively looking for picture books? And I think you mentioned the yearbook, but maybe you can expand on that again.
Well, I would say that, I mean, to be honest, I don't know which agents are actively looking to represent picture book writers at the moment. But what I would say is that both agents and editors move around an awful lot. So really, the Children's Writers and Artists picture book, which is easily available through, online or through your local WH Smith, has the most up-to-date information. The market changes all the time. So it's like, you know, and my job is more at the craft end to make you into great writers. And to the extent that I have the bandwidth, I tune into what's going on for agents and picture book publishers. But in a sense, that becomes the agent's job. So, so what Joe and I try to do is get you as close as possible we possibly can to being snapped up, and we can give you some pointers on where to go, but we can't do more than that, really.
Okay, excellent. We're going to try and take 2 more questions. Joe asks, how common is it to produce co-editions for different languages?
Oh, it's very common. So some of my books have been translated, you know, some of the books I've written have gone into more than 30 languages. And a lot of the publishers with smaller markets who cannot afford to do their own picture books buy from the British. The British actually have a great reputation for creating fantastic picture books, which is nice. I think punch above our weight in the international market. So it's, I mean, again, it kind of is down to how tenacious the foreign rights sales team are with the publisher that signs you up, and some are better than others. But when I was at Barefoot, our biggest co-edition partners, I mean, it varied from year to year. So interestingly, we had a period when our foreign rights director was Spanish. So suddenly our sales into Spain and the Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America went through the roof because everyone loved that she was Spanish. And I'm a French speaker, which is probably one of the reasons why France has always been a very big market for us. So it becomes, you can tell from this, it becomes very personal at a certain level. It's about the long-term business relationships that people form.
Okay, I've got a request. Can we have answer to question skipped? Not many pictures. Oh, I apologize if I've skipped a question. I have this really long list that I'm scrolling down. Not many picture books that show ethnically diverse characters and rhyme. Is this not a combination that works?
This is absolutely a combination that works. And if you look at the Barefoot Books website, you will see a lot of them, and some of them are the company's bestsellers.
Okay, excellent. A really quick question from Catherine Fries. If you're not based in the UK, can you still participate in the course? Is it usually not in pandemic times in person?
The 3 workshops are usually in person, but at the moment, the entire course is delivered online. It may well stay that way. And on our current course, for example, we have someone in Crete, we have someone in Austria. So yes, you can apply from overseas. You're very welcome.
And I can speak for myself personally. I took part in the Golden Egg Academy Foundations course in 2018 and finished in the work on your novel last year. And for each of the workshops, I flew to London. Like I said, you book ahead of time when you can fly, and it worked out just fine. It's just the burden is kind of on the person taking the course if you're accepted. Okay, let me see if I can get one more question. If I've skipped someone really important, please shout out quickly because we have time for exactly one more question and then we need to get off. Illustrated, we had that. Quiet Books, we had that. What was the company Tessa mentioned? Di, you're going to have to be a little bit more, I'm not sure which. Barefoot Books. Okay, thank you. Oh, the deadline for the applications for 2021.
I'd say end of June, but it may be full before then. So if you want to apply, you're kind of as well to apply sooner rather than later. It is filling up. So, and we cap it at 16. So.
Okay. Oh gosh, that's a big question. I think we're going to have to answer this one offline. Can you tell us about converting picture books and kids' TV and films? Is that something that happens? Can you advise how you would go about this?
Yes,
maybe
it does happen. Charlie and Lola is a classic example of it happening. It's handled by the licensing team in your publisher's sales department.
Any courses you can recommend for illustration and picture book writing that can be done from home? Someone has mentioned Blueprint Picture Book.
I don't
is
know.
online.
I don't know what that is.
I would probably recommend, trying to.
Orange Beak for illustrators. And, well, I think I recommend the Golden Egg Academy Picture Book Program, funnily enough.
Absolutely, Golden Egg Academy, and then join SCBWI. You know, if for some reason you don't get into Golden Egg, there's so many other opportunities out there, and this group of people, they know. Curtis Brown, someone recommended. Okay, there's a lot of questions left. Tessa, Joe, maybe you have some time. You can answer them in the forum. Thank you, everyone. This has been...
One of the reasons why, so the Golden Egg course is a year long. It's like doing a master's. I used to teach, when I was running Barefoot, I used to teach at the Arvin Foundation sometimes. The reason why we have a long course is because it's actually not easy to become good at picture book writing. So you'd be amazed how many people start the year, think it's easy to have their manuscript sorted in 6 months. It takes longer than that. You will never get to the end of your craft.
Thank goodness. We're always evolving. Thank you so much, Tessa. Thank you, Marisa. Joe, thank you in the background. Thanks, everyone. Remember, donate to 7 Stories if you can. And thank you so much to the Golden Egg Social Club. This has been a great event. I'm so glad that I got to host one of the last events of the day. And now over to Mother Goose so we can hear the end of the sessions. Thank you, everyone.